Dear Jewel, I left you with a few things to always hold on to. Loyalty, elusiveness, and brute force. If you remember these lessons, you will survive. If anyone can, it's you. Love you always, Dad.
Xbox One S, starting at $299.
Hello everyone, welcome to the GameSpot stage here at E3 2016. I have an incredible guest with me today. Well, with myself and Justin Haywald.
I'm not incredible.
You are incredible.
You are incredible. You're amazing.
But instead, I've got Jason VandenBerghe. Come on.
I can't live up to that.
You
We're setting
can.
the expectation of this place that's not... Anyway.
Every introduction you do at Ubisoft's press conferences, you steal the show every time, so I'm super happy to have you here with me.
It's great to be here.
And do you do voiceover work? Because
I do the most amazing placeholder voiceover you've ever heard.
I'm amazed that's place. Like, this is a serious question. Are you gonna have some voice acting of yours in the game? Because
I always do. I always have, because I actually do great placeholder VO. And so I always do all the placeholder, and then every now and then they forget to cut a few of the lines, and so I kind of sneak into the game. So, we'll see.
So what lines do you have in For Honor that we might get to hear?
what kind of...
A bunch of stuff in the parts of the missions that you haven't played, right? We came with our campaign, right? We have these two things, and we've got all these other missions that we're doing, right? So those are where all the placeholders are. But then we've got the real actors who've done the real thing.
I was going to say, I imagine you've got like grunts and things in there, some screams,
yes,
some
we
yells.
all are in the crowds. We're all absolutely. The minion deaths and the arg and the rrr and the rah. Yeah, we all get to do those, right? And then the crowd ones are great. It's fun packing 20 game developers into a sound booth and having us all go, ah! That's amazing.
So, For Honor, this year, you came off showing your campaign.
Yay! Story campaign!
Can you tell me a little bit how this works? Because there's obviously the three factions.
Yes.
So, are there three separate campaigns? Do they intertwine?
One campaign.
Okay.
It's one campaign where you're going to play as the knights, and then as the Vikings, and then as the samurai. So we're kind of divided it into three pieces. One big story, right? To answer this question about Apollyon and her Blackstone legions. This group of knights that are bringing more war to an already war-torn land, right? So we're going to get to know what's going on about these three factions and their warfare, sort of the idea.
So, I mean, how are they all ending up in the same place? Because, I mean, my knowledge of history is not that good, but I do know that,
Right.
ancient samurai, Vikings...
Did not, right, the samurai did not attack the Vikings.
That we know of.
Directly, yes. There was no great Viking that didn't happen. So we haven't, you saw our trailer, right, the trailer for that, and that establishes this world where it's, there had been a prior civilization, and then this bad thing happened, right? the world gets uprooted, and we all kind of fall back. And now we're coming back out of that, right, and kind of refilling these ancient fortresses and these ancient sanctuaries and all this stuff. But we're these old people are bumping up against each other after a long time, and of course the resources are constrained, right? We're in a better time now, but now. We've been warring for so long, and we have so many years and centuries of ancient warfare to build on, right? That we're over-prepared, right? And so the wars have just been kind of a natural state, and then into that we bring our villain and the plan for more war.
I'm going to get a little tinfoil hat here. So you mentioned there was a civilization that came before.
Yes.
Another famous Ubisoft property has a civilization that came before. Are you saying that For Honor and Assassin's Creed are in the same universe here?
Absolutely not. No.
Damn it!
Good guess. Good
Damn
guess. But no, totally different places.
Okay.
In fact, Assassin's Creed is wonderful as sort of like history, and this is sort of built in our world. I really think of the world of For Honor as kind of like you've stepped through the sword fighting looking glass, right? You're on the other side, right, where we can rearrange the pieces on the board and do all this wonderful stuff. That's what that long period is all about. But it's a new place. I think of it as inspired by our world, right? Like it's the way we would want the world to be if what we wanted to do was fight with weapons forever.
So how did you narrow it down to just these three? Are you, because the ones that immediately come to mind, pirates, ninjas, are these things that are just going to be DLC later? Or are you like, no, that had to be these three? How did you narrow it down?
Well, it's something we sort of discovered early in the development of the game. It was a question we started asking ourselves. It's kind of a classic trio in a lot of ways. I found that I could ask anyone, to choose, like Knight, Viking, Samurai. Like I can ask, Knight, Viking, or Samurai, isn't it?
Knight.
Samurai.
Samurai. Bang, right on it. See? Now here's the thing. You know the answer to that. You knew that answer before I asked you, right? You made that decision a long time ago. Well, why?
Unconsciously.
Yes. What's that about? So
I want to be a knight, but with a samurai sword, though.
well, I can't guarantee you that here. What we learned is that I think it's about what kind of warrior you might like to be. I think it's actually about values. People who answer knight tend to have this idea of protection, like defending the weak and the sort of the nobility of the thing. They see themselves in that way, right? I'm a knight. I have that's definitely overinflated ego. That's definitely.
I have the overinflated ego.
Okay, well, so perfect, right? People who choose Viking tend to be reflecting a choice about passion and living their life to the fullest and intensity and beer and parties. And then the samurai, people who choose samurai tend to be focused on mastery, right? There's like the idea of a higher, like there's this higher idea of battle itself and sort of striving for perfection, knowing that you can't ever achieve it, right? And so this idea of becoming that, sort of always striving towards those things. Yes.
It sounds like you guys have you guys had like some psychological testing going on the background here?
I might be a big geek on that stuff. That might be a part of my whole thing.
Some Rorschach tests. Viking helmets.
I give talks at the Game Developers Conference every year about player motivation and psychology.
Yeah.
It's a big part of my shtick. So yes, I am into that for sure.
That's good. That helps, create the best game for the player because you're
think so.
tailoring it basically to
Yeah,
how
I think
people
so.
behave, how they think.
Yeah, find out how people really think about these things. And I felt like we discovered a kind of a personality test, right, inside the Western culture because it's enough, right? Those three, the Night Viking Samurai, it's enough, right? You can stop there, right? You could add more in, but most of the other ones, they're all kind of in the same realm, right? Like
like ninjas, very
yeah,
samurai-ish.
Samurai, exactly. We could add the
Pirates,
Mongol,
very
like asshole
Viking.
samurais.
Pirates of the Vikings.
Yeah.
You could with those values, you can kind of cluster them, right? Because I think those are maybe those are the three values. I don't know.
Do you play as all three in the campaign, or do you choose which one to be? Okay.
No, you play as all three. And in order, it's from this tale that we're telling. You play as you start as the knight, and you play as a character we call the warden, which is this knight who is a roaming knight that's come into the land, this area of the world, and gets all caught up in this local conflict with the Blackstone Legion. We call him the warden. It's kind of you, right? You can pick your gender, you can pick your customization. It's kind of who you want to be, right? And then you play through that campaign. And then we switch to the Raider, which is the character you see here, and that's the Raider. And again, you can pick and customize. We do the same thing for the Samurai. So you play them all three, all along you're finding out what's kind of going on, right? The backstory.
Yeah. Would you think it's more beneficial if you play the single player before you make a bold foray into multiplayer?
It's definitely there as a place for you to play if you don't want to get your ass handed to you, right? It's because we all know that jumping into a multiplayer environment can be humiliating, right? No thanks. So we'll have a sort of a brief sort of training bit to get you up to speed because we have a very new mechanic, but as early as possible we're going to open up the door and let you play in the multiplayer. But if you want to really study the characters and get good at that, that's what the single player is for. The mechanics and the characters like we're seeing here, these are the multiplayer characters. They're the same characters. The moves that we see here and the powers that you're seeing here, almost all of the abilities that you have in the single player campaign transfer directly to the multiplayer. So it's really this one world.
And it seems a lot of what you've built around that is also kind of realistic and true to life. Is there anything fantastical in what you've created as well?
Have you seen how big these guys are?
Have you seen me?
They're huge.
I look small on camera, but I'm massive. Sinks into the couch.
So I love it that you feel that way. I love it that it seems real to you, but I can assure you, people aren't like that. We think of our world as kind of an exalted, exaggerated version of the world. We kind of turn the volume up on a couple of knobs, right? Realism is kind of part of our ambitions, but we're really not trying to reproduce melee combat here, right? We're trying to reproduce the emotions of melee combat. We're trying to convince you that you're on a battlefield, right? We're trying to immerse you in that and feel like you actually have the sword in your hand, right? My favorite feedback is when people come back after they play the game and they're like, oh man, I feel like I've been swinging a sword for hours, right? Like, what, you mean you're physically tired? They're like, no, it's just I'm just moving my thumbs around. I just feel like, whoa, it was intense, like that's really what we're trying to do is get you there.
And of course, you've got a brand new control scheme. How did you come up with that? Because it's quite I assume a lot of iterations.
Yes, but it had its origins. It's gonna sound like a story, like I'm making it up, but this actually happened. About 13 years ago now, I took a course in what's called German longsword, which is the style of combat that you see with the warden doing, kind of. It's inspired by that. And I was so impressed, I was so struck by how simple this system was and how clear and sort of learnable and intuitive that it was. As I was like, well, what would happen if we took this and we put it like on the right stick? Right? We took that system and we tried to put it there, right? And very quickly, the basics of the control scheme that you see with the lock here and the attacks here, right? All that kind of clicked in place. And I got really excited. I was like, oh my God, I think this would work. I think you would feel the way I feel when I do this. You would feel like you're on a battlefield. Oh, this would be amazing. So I started pitching it. And for 10 years, it was no, right? Like, no thanks, no good, that won't be fun, it won't work, blah, blah, blah. And then I pitched it at Ubisoft Montreal to the GM there. And ironically, the answer was no.
Oh.
The answer was, but it was no but. Right? No but, I'd like you to meet this team. And I was introduced to Steph Cardan and the what was called the Fox team at that time. And they're amazing. This team is just incredible. And they adopted me. They were looking for a creative director, and they adopted me as a puppy. I was like, I want to come home.
I want to come home.
And we made the game.
So
oh, sorry, we are out of time. I'm getting the call in my ear. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. When can we play For Honor?
It's February 14th, 2017, Valentine's Day. We got co-op, we got split screen, so it's going to be a great date game. It's perfect.
Thank you so much. For more on For Honor and all the games here at E3, make sure you stay tuned to GameSpot.com.
Thanks a lot.
You're watching the GameSpot stage, brought to you by Airheads.